Sure, Venice is nice, but it's so big and crowded. You'll never get the personal care and attention that you need. They have thousands of ships coming in and out of port every year. To them, you're just another of the faceless crowd. Come to a place where we'll treat you right. We might not be much to look at right now, but we've got people hard at work building the infrastructure that you need. We'll treat you right in Ragusa. In Ragusa, you'll take on the role of a builder looking to establish themselves in the port city. By building houses in and around the city, you'll gain access to resources, trade commodities, and build walls to protect from would-be invaders. Build smartly, and you'll be generously rewarded. Each turn is as simple as placing one of your houses on an available space on the board. Each space is adjacent to 3 hex regions, and each of those regions will be activated upon placement. Rural spaces outside of the city walls grant access to resources, while regions within the city grant various actions. By placing a house here, you would activate these 3 rural regions and have access to these 3 resources. You'll use trackers on your player board to indicate how many resources you have access to. It's important to note that you'll never spend these resources in the game. Instead, you'll keep track of and check against the amount of resources you have access to. Every house placed also needs to meet the building requirements according to each adjacent region. You will need access to 1 wood for every house adjacent to a specific rural region, and 1 stone for each house adjacent to a specific city region. Placing this house here would require access to 1 wood for this region, 2 wood for this region, and 3 stone for this region. Keep in mind that you do have immediate access to the resources you gain access to. Activating city regions will give you an action. Some are as straightforward as creating trade commodities from resources. Placing a house adjacent to a winery will create 1 winery for every grape you have access to. At the wharf, you can sell a trade commodity for victory points according to the value indicated on the board. In this case, selling a silver will gain you 2 victory points. At the market, you'll be able to trade with incoming ships. By paying the indicated trade commodities, you'll gain the good on the ship and collect the indicated victory points. You'll also adjust the value of the trade commodity paid and the commodity indicated on the next incoming ship. At the fishmonger, you'll gain 1 victory point for every 2 fish you have access to. At the cathedral, you'll gain victory points for every set of trade commodities you have remaining at the end of the game. There are 2 regions that aid in the construction of the walled city. At the mason, you'll place 1 wall segment in any available space along the perimeter of the city. At the architect, you'll place a tower in your color along the wall. You can even place one where there is a house already present. At the end of the game, you'll gain points for having a continuous wall segment that contains your color towers or houses and is uninterrupted by an opposing player's structures. Since houses and towers can occupy the same space, wall segments can overlap between players. The longer your segment, the more points you'll earn. Everything I've shown you is pretty standard fare. So far. The hook that gives Ragusa its bite is this little symbol right here. It can be found in most of the city spaces, and what it means is that whenever someone activates that region, every other house also adjacent to that region will activate as well. By placing this house here, and placing a wall segment because of the action, every other house around the hex will also place a wall segment. At the beginning of the game, turns are lightning quick. Place a house, update your resources, or take the action. But as the game progresses and the board fills up with houses, turns can cascade into a flurry of action. You have to be very observant of the other players' positions and anticipate their moves. Hopefully you can leech off of their moves while minimizing the amount that you help them. In a lot of games, it pays to build up your resources and turn them in for an efficient payout. But Ragusa plays with that notion in really interesting ways. You can still take that approach, but it might be a better move to claim a city spot early, even if it means a small return. The hope is that over the course of the game, the multiple activations will net you a better gain. With its simple turn structure, Ragusa manages to create an approachable game system, but with enough twists to keep you on your toes. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe it's worth a visit.